Hey guys, Gingy here, and today's video is sponsored by water. So if you're like me and you drink water at home, make sure to like and subscribe. Now let's get back to the video. Nice. Hey guys, Gingy here. In today's video, I will walk you through our thought pattern and process of learning and strategizing when making routes in the MDI Cup 3. This is a mist, 18 tyrannical, necrotic, prideful, and bowstring dungeon. Now here is the route that we used, and I will make sure to post the paste bin for the import through the Mythic Dungeon tools. If you guys are interested and want to use the route yourself or try it out with your friends, it will be listed in the description. Now let's get into the video and go a little bit more in depth as to how we do these runs. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into it. So very, wait for the timer. What else can you do? We usually have Jimmy here, since he's on travel form, pressing it. He's also Night Fate Druid. Now starting off with the first pull, we start off with the Spike Claws here, and we pull the Drost Harvesters and the pull over here. Now there's one kick to work. There's one kick to worry about, of course. Very easy to rotate kicks there. There's the two Soul Cleavers. Now let's take this pull a little slow, okay? The reason why we're doing the grip here, and then you'll see me do a freeze in just a second, is because of bolstering management. Now you can see that the HP of the Spike Claws are sitting at 164k, whereas you're around the 250k mark and even higher on the Villager. So if you got these Spike Claws in too quickly, they will die before the rest of the mobs, and you're gonna see a lot of, like, all of the other mobs, the big mobs especially, being bolstered like crazy. So that's not something you want to run into. Now, as for the cooldowns here, I will be combusting here. We're going to be using our Convoke. Now, as for the longer cooldowns, the 3-minute cooldowns like Incarn, as well as Ashen Hallow, those cannot be used because we need to use those later on. We'll get into that in just a second. So, we go in here, we use the freeze so that the mobs come in 8 seconds later after the freeze goes away. We go in, now he does the initial kick on the Harvester here, I get the combust, and notice that I'm doing a single target combust, right? With my DPS potion here. And the reason why I do a single target combust here is if I did the AoE, it would be a bowstring fiesta. So we need a little bit more priority damage, and we do assign who attacks certain targets as the main target. We're going into each individual pull. That is very important for bolstering management. So whenever we go into a bolstering dungeon and let's say there's like 2 or 3 big HP mobs, then as a general rule we assign who attacks what target as their main target as they cleave, in order to try and balance out the DPS and then getting a clean and even bolstering management pull. Now, as for the kicks in terms of priority that I'm usually the one calling kicks. We have our Balance Druid and our Priest as well, who are both playing Naya, and so they have the double potency conduit as well as the interrupt potency at the bottom of the Soulbind. I usually prioritize, obviously the melee kick, so it gets more frequent. The Demon Hunter also gets his, Fury, and then I prioritize Mirrors and then into the Beam so that we can get a little bit extra free damage from the Interrupt itself. So you'll see that it's gonna be a silence from the Shadow Priest and then into the Solar Beam here. So we go here, blast the pull, try and even it out between prior damage and single target. You get the Solar Beam out. You can see the Force of Nature is being popped. It is necrotic, so it's a great tool. Also notice that the Hutch is going out, as well as the stun from Mirrors onto the Soul Cleavers. Now the Soul Cleavers, they do have a leech buff that they apply to themselves, and if they do hit the tank, they will leech themselves up. So what we did is that we had Mirrors use Psychic Horn one. You can see here, if you scroll back a little bit into the video, you can see that the Soul Cleavers, as soon as they apply the debuff on themselves, you can see on the nameplate here, Soul Cleaver has 5 seconds left of the leech. You can see that the Psychic Horror goes out, and the Hutch as well, from both the Paladin and the Priest. That allows the Soul Cleavers to well, it allows us to minimize the heal from the soul cleavers now that because we don't have an AoE stun with this composition. So that's pretty much the first pull in a nutshell. So we just try, you know, do the freeze initially. We go in, we have certain control and kick prioritization, as well as certain assignments as to who kicks what target and who has, you know, attacks X target as their main. Now here, very standard. We're gonna get a mushroom buff that are inside here that gives us 10% main stat, of course. We are assigned to each specific mushroom. We go in, boom, we get a 10-minute buff. Now here we're gonna sit and hit the ball breakers for a little bit until the point where they get around 70% HP in order to have good bolstering management. That's why we kind of like hit them a little bit. Otherwise, the small mobs would just die and you'd see giant big ball breakers. So we sit there and hit them a little bit initially. You're gonna see the kick coming out far away from me, and then we're gonna get the kick from Robin. Now the next one we're gonna do here is that we're gonna do a solar beam, right? Solar beam blast.
Has just subscribed.
You can see me here before the AoE. I also pop my ultra time, and after the solar beam wears off, you're gonna see the silence rune coming out, and you're gonna see the treants. Okay, you see the treants coming out here. It's on cooldown. You can see the ultra back up to 100% HP. You know, just making it way easier for the healer. Let's go back a little bit so you can see it in a little bit in slow-mo here. You can see here 20% HP, ultra back up right before the last tick. You see the tank low, 39 stacks of necrotic. Normal circumstances, you know, a tank would have to kite here. He would run out of the flame patch. Stuff would be a little bit spread. You know, you couldn't get the effective cleave out. So here is a really, really good usage of the Force of Nature from the Balanced Druid. You know, popping it as the tank is high necrotic stacks, as the mobs are low. And you can see here, right as the treants die, he leaps away. Nice and clean pull. Perfect usage of our utility, you know, the solar beam into the silence rune, the initial kicks, you know, the Force of Nature to have the tank stay in and do damage. And as you can see on the damage meter, the tank is actually number 2 on the damage meter right here, which is all because of the utility from the Balanced Druid as well. Now, here we're just gonna finish off the Pride. We're not gonna chain it into the boss because what we saw is that when we did chain it into the boss, we ran into the problem of extending the boss fight too long. We would see the pools on the ground from the boss. We would have the fear sometimes going out, and it was just a fiesta. So we actually noticed that it was actually quicker just to kill the Pride off, go in, lost early. And the reason why we also lost instantly is because it will carry over to the damage phase regardless of it being used on pull. And we also want to front load the loss as quick as possible because this dungeon is really fast and you want to have a good loss on the last boss. So we go in here. Now it's going to do the first kick. And again, the same priority system here. We're going to have Maris kick second so that we can apply the debuff, the poison debuff from his Naya Soulbound Conduit. As you can see here, when he kicks now, you can see down at the unit frame, debuff is applied. And then we're going to follow up with a solar beam so that we have double Naya Soulbind debuff, boom, which will carry over to the damage phase, get that extra squeeze of DPS out. Now, we overkill this guy a lot because of a composition with the Ashen Hallow, with this Incarn Convoke, you know, combustion and everything like that. We actually ended up being a little bit too quick in this run, so we're not going to have a surrender or a Void Eruption from a Shadow Priest, but it doesn't matter. As you can see here, in just a second, we're going to go into the damage phase. The loss is still rolling. We still have 50 seconds of loss and 32 seconds of Pride buff. So, more than enough. And you can just see Ingra just absolutely melting in an 18 tyrannical setting. You know, still 6 seconds left of PI, everything. I mean, just crazy burst damage. You can see the Balanced Druid with the highest burst potential on single target in the game, lining up that CA and the Convoke. Now here, what you can do in the maze, of course, is that you can pull stuff through the wall, especially on the first pack here on the right. A very standard thing to do. You might know it yourself. This actually here in the right this spot, it's not line of sight, so you can just go and pull that with any kind of ranged ability that you have, and have the right pack stacked up with the 2 mobs, making it for a more effective pull. Now here is not really super much to worry about. I don't really have my combustion here, that's fine. You know, we already have pre-assigned cooldowns. I do my cooldowns on the next pull here. So one thing that we did on this pull, there's a couple mechanics that I need to worry about, right? You have the defenders that do their spear flurry. You have the guardians who's gonna do their, their rampage where they knock people back in this circle here. Now this rampage can be stopped. If you stun it before the rampage cast is finished, they will simply just recast it. Now notice, as soon as the rampage cast is finished, he was obviously gonna channel it, and that's where we utilize stop. So you can do that by, as soon as the cast is finished, you could go in a DB, you could go in a fear, you can do single stuns, AoE stunts. You can even use things like imprison, paralyze, whatever you trap if you're a hunter, whatever you have in your toolkit. So notice that as soon as this channel has finished, you're gonna see the Hutch coming out from our Paladin Salia right here. You see, just finished, millisecond after, the Hutch gets applied. Quick reactions. Salia is prepared for this because he does it every single time, and that allows for the melees to stay in and not having to worry about the dodge or the rampage in any way. Now there's also another mechanic that you can stop, which is from the Stalker, which applies a bite and a debuff that does quite a lot of damage. You'll see me in a second here. As the bite happens, a DB, stop it, and it doesn't apply or recast it again. That way you won't see a bleed going out on your group. And that's obviously going to mitigate and reduce the damage taking from your group, making your healer happy so that he can focus on damage instead. You can see here the damage profile. Again, utilizing the treants as well to keep the tank in. And I think this is very, very important thing in this dungeon, especially in the necrotic setting, is that the tank can stay in even though it's necrotic. And you can see as a result of that, the damage is just so high from the tank especially as well. And it also allows our tank to go Spirit Bomb, which it did for this dungeon, even though it's necrotic, going for a more offensive build. So really, really good synergy between the Balance Druids and tanks, especially on necrotic or high keys. When they run out of cooldowns or whatever, they can just ask for the treants and they can stay in for an additional 10 seconds. Really, really good utility. So here we go in, use the Combust. Nothing really crazy here on this pull. Again, you have the Stalker, you have the debuff application from the Stinger, which simply just gets dispelled. You can see the bite there, you see the Psychic Horror going out from Maris, again using the AoE Fear to stop the bleeds and just mitigate the damage here. You use the Kite here on the necrotic, we put a Vortex down from the Druid. Again, good use of utility from the Balance Druid. And here, another no combust pull. Just making sure that we're just focusing on having good bolstering management. Swap to the high HP target. And it's also very important because if you're looking at the pride timing here, it's gonna spawn from the second ad that spawns in this pull. And it's important for us that we're gonna drag this pride into the next part of the maze. And if you're in combat, let's say you proc the pride from one of the ads and you haven't finished off the pack yet and the pride gets activated, you're going to be stuck in combat once the pack is dead. And that allows you to not go further into the maze until you've killed the pride, because you cannot open the next step of the maze if you're in combat. So it's very important that we have good even cleave here. Otherwise you won't be. So you can see here, we still have 2 mobs up. The pride spawns and we're still in combat, because when we finish this up, you can see the pride is active. So what you can notice here that I'm still in combat, right? Under normal circumstances, I would not be able to open this maze here. And we want to make sure that we want to, bring this pride into the next pull, and I combust it with PI and Fey Guardian as well for the cooldown reduction. So what I do here as a backup is that notice that I Shadow Melt to drop my combat right there. And then I use my Soul Shape. I could also use a Blink. I Soul Shape, before the tick happens from the pride. So this needs to be happening quickly, because I'm going to get in combat again when I get ticked by the pride out. So Shadow Melt, Soul Shape, Blink in order to open. So that was a backup strat. Under normal circumstances, we would do a little bit better cleave on this pull so that I wouldn't have to do that. But that's something you can do as a backup in case if you have. You could also do it with Feign Death. You can do it with Vanish if you're a rogue. You can do it with invisibility if you're mage. So here we go out. This bring the pride in. I get the PI and the Fey Guarding for the cooldown reduction here, and this pull just gets melted. I utilize the as well, for pulls like this. Since the pride first of all, it's good for the passive damage regen, popping the mirrors, but it's also good for aggro. Like mirror images, really good synergy with whenever you have like big damage as a mage. You know, you get the PI, you get the big combustion, and in some cases, you're gonna run into issues where you're just gonna over aggro. So that's why it synergizes really well using the mirror images, because you're pretty much safe as a mage if you pre-mirror image and you're not gonna be in any danger of aggro. So here you can just see we're blasting the AoE, boom, 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 nice and clean. Nothing really fancy going on here on this pull. I mean, it's just important that you kick the tenders and kick the shapers in these mist. You know, especially the tenders, because the tenders, they do, if they get their heal cast off, they get a healing hot to all of the mobs around them, and it heals quite a lot. In case you miss, you can spell steal it, purge it, master spell it, you know, as fast as you can in order to minimize the healing that they receive, but always make sure that you do assign your kicks whenever you go into a pack. So whenever we go into a pack and we look at the route from Mythic Dungeon Tools add-on, we, you know, assign who is on what kick ahead of time. So notice on this pull here, this is actually not the path or the way that we will be going through the mist, but apparently this big branch here, this tree, is not a wall. So this allows you to pull stuff on the left side here. As you can see, I walk here, I've just pulled the defender here with spell steal, and you know, I run away. So one of the reasons why I run away here is that the defenders, as they come, they will randomly sometimes in the back do their spear flurry. And this is just a theory, but I don't know if it's true or not. But it looked like it's kind of like proximity based. So when I pulled them and I blinked away, it seemed like they were more, you know, consistently walking further down before they did their spear flurry. So you can see they did it here. In some cases, if I just pulled them and I stood there where I pulled them, sometimes they would do the spear flurry early and they would come in late, which is bad for bolstering management. So that's why I blinked on the far side of the room. So here we pull a little bit extra pack. This is, you know, to get the count, because it's gonna line up really well with the pride timings, as well as being, you know, an easy pack that you can pull on top of the Night Blossom here. So same thing here again. The pride is gonna spawn from the second to last mob that dies here, so you just gotta make sure that the last two mobs kind of die evenly. So this is kind of like a better indication of how it should have been in the previous pull, where you kill the last mobs around the same time, allowing you to open up the mist of the next path, and then, you know, before the pride has spawned. Now we're gonna drag this pride into the next pull just like before. We usually wait for 2 debuffs going out here. Ideally for time, you would wait for 1 and then go in, because the pride actually does die a little bit earlier than the rest of the pack. Normally in ideal case scenario for efficiency, you would have them die at the same time, but this was like a good balance between safety and speed at the same time. We felt like this was a little bit more consistent because it is a little bit more of a spicy pull. So again here, I get my Fade Guardian, for the cooldown reduction for the Shadow Priest. One of the reasons why you bring Shadow Priest is of course for the PI and the Fade Guardian, which reduces the cooldown recovery rate of a major cooldown by 100%. It's actually going to be 150% in the next patch, making it a really nice class to have as a support role. And it's not like Shadow Priest is bad damage outside of that. And that also allows you to bring the Holy Paladin for the massive single target damage potential with the Ashen Hallow, making it a really good pumper comp, as you might have seen, something that you'll see way more in the MDI going forward. So here again, assign the kicks. Make sure you kick both the Tender and the Shaper. The Shaper applies a buff onto one of his friends if he gets the cast off, and if you do hit the guy with that debuff, you will get rooted, and the root also does damage over time. Now you can spell seal that as well in case the casts go off. You'll see the power of the Holy Paladin here. You can see the power infusion getting ready on the Excelsus Ray tools. You can see the wings and the Ashen Hallow being ready through the Omni CD add-on as well. My combustion is not ready. You know, Incarn and Convoke is not ready, so you're gonna see the PI actually going out on the Holy Paladin here in just a second, and you will just see how much damage he's gonna end up doing, and it's just absolutely crazy. Let's just see it in all this glory. You can see Ashen Hallow being popped, the PI. Just notice the Holy Paladin damage on the damage meter. Just embrace it, guys, of how strong this is. So one thing that's very important here, really, on this boss, sorry for pausing it while the damage was ramping, but the most annoying thing on this fight in general is the foxes. The foxes, of course, fixate on a target, and if it hits anyone in its path, it will freeze you for, I don't know how many seconds, like 10 or something, 8 seconds, and it also does a lot of damage. Now, this is one like mob where good control on this will increase the overall DPS of the group, having good control. You can see the Psychic Aura going out from Maris as I jumped on him. He did spawn it in melee, so it will get passively cleaved down by the Ashen Hallow. Now, normally we want to bait it outside as a ranged in order for it to not be in any kind of cleave range, and you can just put a Hibernate from the Balance Druid or a Sheep from the Mage or anything like that to just make it you know, very easy to control it. You don't have to worry about it, and you can just focus on the boss, and you don't have to run or cancel your cast or anything like that, or use extra globals to CC it. Now here, we kind of like, I feel like our team is pretty good at finding these patterns out very, very quickly, but we do have assigned things that people should look at as a first priority. You know, should they look at if it's, if the border is unique? Should you look at if the pattern is full, if it's empty, if it's, you know, only a flower, only a leaf? We have pre-assigned this. So here we can see, of course, that this is full, this is full, this is full, and this is empty. So this is gonna be the target that you wanna hit, right? Now, there you can see how long it took for us to find that out. In just a second, let's analyze that. You can see that on my targeting. And you can also, I'll just enable the voice, the audio, so you guys can hear how we walk through that.
Leaf, empty.
Yeah, sorry. I said leaf, which was wrong.
Empty.
Yeah. And then I get corrected, and we go over to the leaf. I mean the empty one afterwards. So that, I mean that's usually the average speed of what it takes to do it. And you know, I mean, I don't think it could be done much faster, really. So that's kind of like how we go about that pattern itself. So here, you see the combustion going out, boom, boom, boom. I need to send my combustion pretty early here. I cannot hold it. You can see, okay, one extra thing, you can see Robin called the fear going out as well. And I mean, this is just good use of utility, you know, communication between your teammates. I need a backup. I called for a CC, whether it be Hibernate or a fear from our tank. And because, I mean, I'm sitting in my combustion doing a pry buff. If I'm gonna sit here and do a freeze or something to cover for this, you know, there will be quite a lot of damage lost. So use your teammates, communicate with each other, and, you know, it's a team game, so you can really make each other's life a hell of a lot easier, and you can support each other in many, many ways. Again, here, let's see how long did it take. This one took a little bit longer. Ideally, if you're ranged, you have an easier time scouting it if you're on the outside of the room instead of being in the middle area. Because here I had to do a spin with my camera instead of having an overview of being able to see all of them at the same time. So we're just gonna finish it off. The freezing tag going out. I use one of the macros that I use as well is a mouse over polymorph. You can see that I never targeted the fox. That just allows you to do the crowd control way easier without losing target of your main target. So you can see here, the fox spawns, a mouse over polymorph, and the poly goes out. You know, nice and quick CC, and you don't have to worry about the Vulpin at all. So I mean, again, just good use of utility on the fox in order to completely negate that mechanic. So here we see the second combustion coming out. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Mage is so strong, right? Again, in my combustion, the second time the fixate spawns on me. And here I'm calling for a Hibernate, going out, boom, and you can see the Hibernate coming from a Balance Druid. And no damage lost. Using your teammates to the best of your ability should always be the goal. Now here, you can actually push the boss down to 0% HP before he goes into last intermission. This is a pretty nice thing you can do in order to gain a little bit of extra time. So we usually try and push, because he pushes to the last phase on 10%. So you want to push on the Paticate cast, and you're going to kick towards the end. You can see Robin kicks right towards the end of the cast, delays it as much as possible, or you can do it on the dodgeball. Now, normally we would do this. You can see the Convoke being popped from Fragnus, but unfortunately, he used Convoke, and then he canceled the Convoke cast by using a DPS pot. Very unfortunate mistake. So we didn't manage to do the DPS check here, but it is a little bit 50-50. Sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. It's not guaranteed. I have my shifting power ready, but I'm actually holding this because I want to have it instantly on the next pull, and I don't need to use it to get my combustion back for the follow-up pack. So I choose to hold it in this situation instead of having a delayed shifting power, which is going to hurt the success rate as well as the cleanliness of the next pull. Now here we're just waiting. I throw a slow fall onto my tank. He likes to get that, and then he cancels ours it just to get a little bit of extra distance on this jump. I usually just slow fall here, get a little bit distance. You blink into blink and then mount up. Nothing fancy, really. We CC this. It's a free pack. It's only a free pack, and it's a stack horn, so it's a pretty inefficient pack. We're gonna do the double pull here with the Reavers flying up there. In terms of kick assignments, what you do here is that we have me and Maris and Cross, and we have Robin and Jimmy on green. Now I kick the first on Cross. The reason for that is I don't want to end up in a situation where I would have to kick during my shifting power or anything like that, which would have me have to cancel a cast. So I do the first one on Cross, and Maris does the second. Now on this pull, there's two mechanics you need to worry about. Like you have the acid, which is a debuff that gets applied to a random player, as well as the ground effect that if you get hit by it, you can see the acid global. If you get hit by this, it will also knock you back and do a lot of damage. Now, you can avoid these mechanics and stop them by the use of single stuns, knockbacks, like the Saurians, like Dragon's Breath, Blinding Light. So you can see the Blinding Light going out from our Holy Paladin to stop that. And the next one here will be a Dragon's Breath coming out for me. And that allows you to not even move. You don't have any range, don't have to move. They can just sit there and blast the DPS. No DPS loss whatsoever. And as a result of that, you can see a very nice and clean pull that just died in a matter of seconds. Now we're gonna kill this Pride, nothing fancy here. I think I'm actually stopping DPS because my tank says he needs a reset. Actually, no, yeah, I'm stopping damage here. You can see I just stopped because my tank wanted a couple extra globals to get his some CDR on one of his sigils. So here what we're doing is that we're pulling one of the Reavers flying upstairs. Now they're not linked together, as you can see here. There's a solo Reaver. We wanted to get this Reaver in instead of having to kill. So towards the end we're going to finish up with some lavas. We're going to pull those into the boss. That allows us to skip the last Pride as well that way. And it's either the Reaver or doing the lavas with either stack horn or an acid gullet, and we felt like just killing off the lavas and getting the Reaver in here was faster than pulling in and killing the gullet together with the lavas. So that's why we got the Reaver in here. So we go in here, boom, last boss. Again, everyone knows this fight that are watching, I'm pretty sure. Minimize the movement on these so that it's easy for your teammates to also dodge them. You don't want to, blink around and then you're going to see like a green puddle the next time flying all over the place, and it's going to make it harder for your teammates. So minimize movement, do small dodges to the left or right or back or in front, whatever you choose to do, but try and do like small movements and not too big. I get the PI here. It's going to line up with the combustion. Boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to delay my Lust a little bit after it's ready. You can see Lust is ready in 5 seconds, but there's a reason why I delay it. It's just so it lines up with my second combust and no one's really losing anything. You can see that the Void Eruption is 40-second cooldown. You can see that the Incarn is ready, but of course he does choose to delay his Incarn because he's not gonna get another usage anyway, and he want to line it up with his, with the Bloodlust. So I'm delaying it a little bit so that it lines up with all the cooldowns, both the Void Eruption, the Combustion, everything like that, to make sure that everyone gets the most out of the lust as possible. So I mean, here are the lavas, of course. I'm just gonna take them to the face. You can choose to melt them, bop them, and then they will go over to the tank. Now, I just feel like, in this case, I could have done those kind of things, but it's better for me to just take some necrotic stacks. So in this phase here, when he does the consumption, you can choose to kick it or not kick it. Not kicking it means that you're delaying the mechanics that comes after this intermission, which is a good thing. Because you're gonna have less poop on the ground, less ad spawning, and you could just hit the boss. And it's also a way for us to get a reset on necrotic at the same time. Now, standard, we will have either Fragnance or Mirrors kick this. Again, it is to use the Naya kick. And we actually made a mistake here. Like, I actually kicked here, which was not intended, because I'm supposed to kick the Staghorn afterwards. In this case, I should have called for a backup, but this is not something that we've ever had happen before, so it was not in my mind. So you can see here we're pulling the lavas, and we're gonna finish up the lavas here, and then finish the dungeon. You can see I target the Staghorn, I press my CS, but it's 4-second cooldown. I should have called for Mirror's backup, that was my mistake. And then, he masters spells, finish up, kill the lavas. Normally, like I said, you would have to kill this Gorger as well in order to proc the Pride and finish the count if you didn't get the Reaver and the remaining pull. And so that was the reason why we got that solo Reaver. So that was pretty much the ins and out of this dungeon. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know how you felt that I did talking over it. If there's certain things that you feel like I can do better when explaining stuff. So that I can, improve on these kind of walkthroughs and commentaries in the future. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something from it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.